When Motorola announced the original Moto Z back in 2016, it promised 3 years of support for its Moto Mod ecosystem. We're on year 4 now, and the new Moto Z still supports them even though it doesn't have to, with some caveats. I'm Hayato with Android Central, taking a quick look at the Moto Z4. The Moto Z4 looks nearly identical to every other Moto Z before it. That's partially because it has to in order to continue support for Moto Mods, but it also allows Motorola to keep refining on what I think is a really good design. The rear glass comes in a matte finish this time around, which feels remarkably similar to the Pixel 3 and recent OnePlus devices, and there's a new 6.4-inch 19:9 OLED panel taking up most of the device around front. Yes, there's a tiny notch at the top of that display, but the Moto Z4 makes up for it by reviving the headphone jack along the bottom chassis, all while maintaining impressively slim bezels and a slim overall profile. There's a whopping 3600 mAh battery inside, the largest ever in a Moto Z device, and new to the Z4 is an optical in-display fingerprint sensor. I'm pretty lukewarm on this tech in general, but early impressions with this sensor aren't looking particularly great for speed and reliability. As far as specs go, there's a middle-of-the-road Snapdragon 675 processor inside, along with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of expandable storage. The Z4 runs a close-to-stock build of Android 9 Pie, and so far performance seems perfectly fine given the hardware. Of course, you can still chop twice to toggle the flashlight and give the phone a double twist to launch the camera, something I miss every time I move away from a Motorola phone. So let's touch on those Moto Mods for a second. There are no new mods, unless you count the 5G mod that went on sale last month, but the Z4 still works with all of the existing ones like the Turbo Power Charger and 360 camera mod. The problem is that because Motorola gave the Z4 ever so slightly rounded edges on the back, there's a noticeable gap between mods and the phone itself. It's not the end of the world, and the severity differs from mod to mod, but you definitely feel it in your hand, and it makes the mods feel a bit more like a Frankenstein project than an elegant attachment system. One more thing to note, the Moto Z4 switches back to a single camera system rather than the dual lenses we've seen in the past, with a 48 megapixel sensor that outputs 12 megapixel files through pixel binning, backed by OIS and a new night vision mode. There's also a 25 megapixel sensor on the front with smile detection for automatic captures. The Moto Z4 will retail for $499 when it launches in early June. That puts it at an awkward price point between the Pixel 3a and higher-end phones like the OnePlus 7 Pro, but Motorola is betting on its 5G mod and other attachments to drive sales. I've used Verizon's 5G network in Chicago, and while the speeds you can get are incredible, I'm still not sure I'd rush out to buy a 5G phone until the network is a bit more widely available. If you like to be an early adopter though, new lines at Verizon can get the Z4 for just $10 a month, totaling out to $240 retail. With the 5G Moto Mod currently discounted to $200, that means you can get a 5G capable phone on Verizon for just $440 out the door. If you live in Chicago, Minneapolis, or one of the 20+ cities set to deploy 5G by the end of the year, that's a pretty killer deal. We'll have more details on the Moto Z4 in our full review. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss when that video goes live, and check out AndroidCentral.com for our written impressions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.